Hey there everyone, welcome back to another exciting episode on our series on securing your environment. If you missed the first part, make sure to check it out for some essential steps to get started. Today we're diving into part 2 where we'll discuss some more crucial topics, but before we begin, I want to remind you to take action on the steps we covered in part 1. Remember, it's all about being methodical and prioritizing your security efforts. Alright, let's jump into today's menu. We have some fantastic topics lined up for you. Asset inventory, application control, backup, and restricting access to known locations. These are all key elements in building a secure environment, so let's get started. Picture this. I once walked into a client's office and little did they know they had a hidden treasure trove of unused assets tucked away. It was like stumbling upon buried treasure. This experience made me realize the importance of conducting a thorough asset inventory. You need to know what you're protecting. From hardware to software, subscriptions to monitors, every asset counts. So establish that reliable asset management system and keep track of everything. Diving back to our little situation, we're doing an audit on a bunch of switches at a client's site, and the client was talking about TV screens that they wanted to put up in the reception area and the entryway to their place. And what ended up happening was, as we were searching through for all these switches and stuff, we actually found all of the screens that they were looking for that they'd bought 3 years earlier sitting in a dusty old shed that had a switch in it, and they'd been sitting there idle for 3 years. Now let's talk about application control. Trust me when I say this is a game changer. Controlling the applications running in your environment allows you to maintain a tight ship. I once deployed an application control software and discovered some shocking findings. They had about 8 web browsers, they had a whole bunch of different outdated software. All of them were holding, high CVE vulnerabilities, and they even had some questionable applications that were lurking in the shadows. By implementing application control, we could weed out the unwanted, enhance security, and align with Essential 8 controls. What you kind of want to aim for here is that sort of 2 web browser of 2 different engines. So you want to look at your Chromium and maybe your Firefox. I would suggest Edge is the good Chromium browser here because it fits and integrates well with your SharePoint space. And then for anything that's got a vulnerability, just make sure that that version of software is specifically blacklisted and not allowed to run. Backups. We all know the horror stories of organizations losing everything due to inadequate backup setups. I remember one client who had their backup drives attached and both of them were encrypted. This left them helpless and when ransomware struck. What ended up happening was we had to pay the ransom to recover their data, and then 2 weeks later, after we'd spent all of this time decrypting their data and rebuilding their environment, they got encrypted again by a different ransomware, and we had to pay the ransom again because their backups were encrypted as well. Anyway, that was a painful lesson for them to learn, but it emphasized the importance of a robust backup strategy. Ensure you follow the 3-2-1 rule. That's 3 copies of your data stored on 2 different media with at least 1 copy offline or immutable. And don't take chances when you backup. It should be a non-domain joined PC or SaaS service, completely isolated. I'm a big fan of Azure Backup, if you wanted to consider that as an alternative. Last but not least, let's talk about restricting access to known locations. This is a simple yet effective measure to bolster your security. By geo-locking your systems, you limit access to only expected locations. If you're an Australian business, why allow logins from Russia or China? It's all about minimizing risk. Leverage Azure Active Directory and configure conditional access policies to create trusted location. It's a thin but impactful wall of security you can rely on. And there you have it, part 2 of our series on securing your environment. I hope you enjoyed today's topics and found value in our discussion. Remember to stay tuned for more tips and tricks as we continue this journey. Together, we can build a secure and resilient environment. And thank you very much for tuning in. We'll see you next time.